really tip our hats off to Charlotte. It really was an honor to be part of a 7-game series like this where both teams pushed each other. I think this is what the NBA likes and wants and what's so special about this game. Both teams were pushed so far uncomfortable in this series. They're obviously so well coached, well schooled, and they have great competitors on that team. And by the time we got to today, you had a lot of guys that probably wouldn't have been out there on both teams, out there in a Game 7, laying it all out there. It's just great competition. So our hats go off to them. They made us better. We don't have to look any further than how we felt on Thursday before we had to go to Charlotte for Game 6. And I think our basketball team needed to go through that to be pushed and find a different level, which we showed in the last 2 games.
Erik, it seemed like Goran had a breakthrough moment in the third quarter of Game 6, and he sort of carried it over today. What has he been like sort of behind the scenes that made you think he could do something like
What
this?
I love about Goran is he just continues to focus on doing his job and getting into the competition. And that's what the playoffs are about. He was playing against a great player. Kemba Walker is one of the very best in this league. It's absolutely a travesty that he's not an all-star. There's not anything he can't do on a court, and he puts so much pressure on you. But in a 7-game series, so many things can happen. And sometimes one guy will get the best of the competition, and you have to somehow find a way to be mentally stable enough to get the next possession or maybe the next half or maybe the next game. And Goran was not discouraged. He wanted to produce for the guys. Part of it was getting through foul trouble early in the series, managing that, competing on the ball that would wear on him. We had 2 point guards going against him, every game defensively. And then he found opportunities to really be aggressive once the defense started to weaken a little bit the last the game and a half. And then we just put the ball in his hands. I think he had the most energy today. Dwayne's usage was high, obviously, last game. And so, Goran had to be a big factor for us tonight.
Erik, you just talked about how you felt like your team needed to be pushed, and Dwayne told Doris in the end-of-game interview that before the game he got real emotional thinking about everything what you guys have been through this year with Chris and with Keith and the trades and free agency and all those things. Did that get addressed at all pregame, and was that on your mind at all, just how, given in the grand scheme of things, what you guys have been through this year? Game 7
not necessarily that.
Not that hard.
We talk about it often. We talked about it on Thursday, that, hey, we have to go through it. You can't script it, and this is the way the series is playing out, and you have to go through the fire together. And that's when you truly grow, is when you face adversity together. You get to know each other for real. We've been through a lot this year. There's been a lot of emotions with that, but we're still standing. And that game in Charlotte was indicative of how close this group is. So yes, we lost Chris at the All-Star break, but he was right there with us, and game 6, and had a tremendous impact with his leadership. UD, I can go on, but the group cares about each other. It was a great series to be a part of. I think everybody in the locker room has great respect for Charlotte, and how we had to grow to be able to get this series at the end.
Erik, with Hassan's defense, how close was this to the peak impact that you envision him having? And how often did you see Charlotte, not just with the block shots, but Charlotte kind of bail out on drives into the paint?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. And Hassan got better. We got better from this as well, because there aren't that many back to the basket, throw the ball into a center, and has a guy that has an array of moves and experience, can draw fouls, has every Kevin McHale step through in the book. You just don't face that every single night. Not like you did 15 years ago. So yes, Hassan's presence, it's so important for us, for him to be protecting the rim for us. But you have a dynamic all-star pick and roll that they're going to run 40 pick and rolls, 50 pick and rolls. Then you finish the plays off with a back-to-the-basket guy that you don't face in an 82-game schedule. That was a big challenge for him. And he got better as the series went on, and a lot of that was getting beat, being frustrated, trying to figure it out, learning from it. And I was proud of Hassan, how he progressed, and even with dealing with the foul trouble in Game 6, he got better, handling all the emotions of a playoff series.
Last 3 questions. Erik, you talk about things that your team has needed to go through this season. Have you felt, and what do you think this playoff series will mean in terms of just them figuring out what their ceiling is together?
You never know. I mean, we don't even know who we're playing tomorrow. But you gain confidence and you gain connection when you go through things together. You don't even, as close as this group has gotten, we didn't really take the next step of getting close until we were all in that meeting room on Thursday, getting ready to embark on a road trip to keep our season alive. And certainly when you get tested in the playoffs is when you have opportunities to really grow.
Spo, you set those defensive benchmarks for the guys of excellence of the under 90 points, under 40% field goal against, the guys seemingly embrace. So when it turns into 73-32, what do you like the most about it?
This series was so bizarre as it kept on moving on. In some ways, I mentioned this before, we started to play a little bit more like Charlotte, and they started to play a little bit more like us. And that's how many adjustments each team had to make. Initially we wanted to try to keep their 3-point attempts to under 25. And we were able to keep it under 20 for, I believe, 5 or 6 of the games. And yet they still found a way. And that's what competition, that's what happens in the playoffs. Teams adjust and play a different style and find different ways to win. Even the games that the 2 games 4 and 5 that we lost, we thought we had opportunities. So even in that meeting room on Thursday, we felt good about how we were playing. We just didn't finish it off, and we had to emotionally go through that collectively to be able to take the next step.
Erik, you can get home court in the next round. Do you take an active rooting interest in the game tonight?
This is stressful enough, like dealing with our series. I can't have that ancillary stress of rooting for somebody else.